All right, I'm gonna be showing you guys how to finish dunks in this video. First thing that you have to learn is the hand position, your hand placement on the ball. So every time I am grabbing a basketball, my fingers are spread wide and my hands are bent like this. I call this the ball's home. This is the home position. Anytime you're grabbing it, catching it, you wanna be in this position right here, okay? Now, how you finish a dunk if you're grabbing with two hands, right? So if you're coming up, grabbing a lob and grabbing with two, or if you're going off the dribble, going up with two, you're gonna grab or pump the ball up, and then if you're dunking with your right hand, you're gonna push as hard as you can with your left hand into your right hand. So it's gonna look like this. And this is actually a drill that you can practice as well. Practice having the ball in its home, right? This position right here. And then just push, you flick with your opposite hand. You just want to practice, get comfortable with this, that motion right there. And then you can also practice with your left hand pushing, all right? So you want to get really comfortable with that. And that's going to teach you the momentum and how to keep the ball in your hand when you're dunking. Now, the most common error, or the most common thing for athletes that are close to dunking and they're trying to get their first dunk is doing this. Oh, dang it. I'm really bad at missing dunks. Is doing, damn it, that. That's a really common issue, right? It's back rimming. The reason a back rim happens is usually because your hand, as you're finishing, is like this, right? So the rim's here and your hand is to the side. When you finish, you want as much of your hand over the ball as possible. The problem is, if this high above the ball, this is how high you need to dunk, right? So we have an issue here. You gotta keep it cuffed to keep the ball in your hand, but then you gotta jump really high. Now, all you really need to dunk is about, let's test that out. Let's see if I can finish. Yep, I can finish right there. So my hand I was about this high above the rim, okay? So the higher you jump, the more you can afford to keep your hand over the ball, the more likely it is that you're gonna make a dunk. If you can only get this high above the rim, how you make up for that difference, right? Because you're under the ball, is you gotta flick as you finish. And you can't afford to finish hard, right? So you can't be like this and then try to dunk hard. You're gonna miss. If you can get your hand, if you jump high enough to get this much above the ball, that's when you can start getting some power behind it. So that's the first thing. If you're barely above the rim, you can't dunk it hard, and it's all in the fingertips. So the full motion is you're cuffed like this, you're going over, and then as you start getting over the rim, you let your hand kind of uncuff a little bit, right? Unbend, and then you finish with the fingertips. So the motion ends up being like this. You're here, you're uncurling your hand, and then like recurling your fingers. It's like that motion. That's like really slow what it would look like. If you look at any dunk where I've usually it's on really, really difficult trick dunks. Like I believe the 360 kamikaze, when I did it on 10 was like that. There is a warm-up dunk that I did at OTE. It was a behind the back, barely jumped. The same thing, I went here, barely finished like that, all right? So I'll do that again on a behind the back. Here, boom. Barely got my fingertips above the rim, but I just know when to uncurl and then when to start using your fingers. Now, to practice this, you need to get a height, you need to get a hoop that you can dunk on without jumping. So look, right now my max reach is right there. Let's go here. So I'm getting literally this high above the rim. And then from here, you can practice kind of lobbing. Look at that, I dunked. I have this much above the rim. This is probably, my hand's 5 inches. This is probably like 3 inches above the rim. Dunking, touching hypothetically 10-3. Now it's a little different when you have velocity going through the air. You're trying to catch a lob, maybe you have horizontal velocity. It's a little different, but right here, stationary, I was able to catch a lob and dunk hypothetically what would be 10-3 and catching a dunk. So that's a drill that you can do, is just raise the rim to a height that you can barely dunk. So for me, I would probably be on my toes. Yeah, on my toes, I can barely reach that, and then just practice catching a lob and trying to dunk it. That's probably a little too high. I would try to get at least like mid palm. And then yeah, just practice catching lobs. You can imagine you're going off the dribble and try dunking like that. You try off the backboard, try dunking like that. And just do that over and over and over again. And if it's a jump day, I would practice obviously with jumps, and just the max height you can make around 2 to 3 out of 10 attempts. And the more you can rep this out on low rims, the more natural it's gonna feel when you're actually on 10 feet and trying to get that first dunk. And this also applies for any trick dunk. So if you're trying to hit a windmill, you barely have enough bounce to hit a windmill or an East Bay or something like that, on whatever rim height you're trying it, the same principles apply. Yep. And then for two-hand dunks, this one's really simple. Most athletes, when they try to dunk with two hands, they have both their hands on the side of the ball. Look at that, I can't dunk, all right? Can't get it over the rim. The trick on two-handers, get your hands under the ball as much as you can, get it on your fingertips, and now look how much more height I have to work with. And I can two-hand dunk right there. Boom. Sometimes I don't even, it's like I don't even have to be touching it with my thumbs really, just fingertips, right? The higher up on your hands you can get it, the less height you need to get to do a two-hand dunk. And same thing applies, you know, tomahawk, I can get it up on my fingertips. And as you get better, you can even start here. And then as I move, the ball literally went from here. Whoop, all right, I went up, let it glide over to my fingertips. So two-handers, get it right here, not here.